What's up, guys? Hopefully everything's working properly. This is like really good timing. I know it's kind of late, I guess, but Amanda just finished her live, so this will be sweet. Hope you're all having a good spooky October. We are so close to Halloween, and I'm excited. It's gonna be fun. Let me just get you guys pulled up here. Ooh. The last thing Amanda said is what you guys are all doing for Halloween. So I'm curious. Oh, shoot. Where'd mine go? Huh? Is it working, guys? Anybody there? Hello, hello. Oh, shoot. Okay. It was unlisted for a moment there. So now at least I know who uses Instagram. Instagram has the link. So whether I have it public or unlisted from Instagram, you can get to these videos. But it wasn't on YouTube yet, apparently. But now we should be good. Let me just double check. Shoot. At least I think so. Oh yeah. It says we got a lot of people on here now. Okay. Should be working. Sweet. Give me just a second here. Let me pull you up. Hope you guys are having a fun spooky season. I always forget about those. So loud. How is the brightness? I'm curious if you guys think it looks better with it dim versus bright. I get different opinions all the time, so just depending on the day. But anyways, today's going to be interesting. We are on week 37 of Evening Teas with Eskel. So this one's going to be really like mostly a rant because last week was one about my dad, and this week I actually had a conversation with my dad. Let's just say that. So we're going to be talking about that a little bit. But before I get into that, I want to welcome everyone for coming. Thank you, Flicker Fade, Flinker Mary, Melanie Brown, Lark Pyle, I think. David Smith, what's up? Amber Hupchick, what's up? Flicker Fade, Grace White, Boom, Gotta Boom, Gotcha, Boom, Gotcha. Okay. Grace White, Jane Kendall, Diana Dias. Heck yeah. Sweet. Thank you guys for tuning in. Oh, we've been going strong for like 37 weeks, you guys. This is awesome. I'm excited for this one because Halloween is just around the corner. It's tomorrow. It's probably within like, 4 hours away? 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yeah. It's going to be here soon. Sounds like from Amanda's video, most of you guys are going to be handing out candy. Not too many people are dressing up. But somebody dressed up as Dolly Parton, so that's cool. I hope I'll be able to see those pictures. For the topic of today, I literally have a bunch of notes, so we're going to be going all over the place. Don't know if I'll have as much time to read comments, but at the end, I'm hoping to go through and read you guys' comments and kind of like figure out if there's any other parts you guys want me to kind of clarify over, because I was just blown away, the conversation that I had with my dad, and I feel like it's going to be really hard to explain like where he was getting at with all of it. And like, a lot of it is up to interpretation as well. So I want to bring this up to see what you guys think about a lot of it. But I want to start it with a question. One that I feel like kind of sheds some light on how people might view the answer to different questions. Because everyone sees things differently. Everyone's got different opinions and everything. And so I was having this discussion with one of my friends, just talking about if it is, I'm just going to make sure I say it right. I have all these notes I'm going to be looking at. Is it safe to drink water straight out of a river? Yeah. Because this one, to me, it was extra fascinating because for most of my life, I always believed one answer to it. Or like, it's more than just a belief. Like I just always had one specific answer to this question, and then it changed on me, because there's lots of different ways that you can look at it. And I feel like, at least for me personally, it's not so important as to what answer you give, but why you give the answer. For example, is it safe to drink river water? A lot of people might just say yes or no, but if you say yes because of the fact that when it's flowing, then it's cleaner and it comes straight from the mountains and it's melted snow, and it's like especially rainwater is supposed to be filtered by the clouds and all that stuff, versus if your answer is no, and you actually have reasoning for it, it's a lot more meaningful, such as if you say like no because there's animals in it, literally animals might bathe in it, or you never know what could be up the river that might get into it and things like that. So basically, long story short, the answer to is river water safe to drink can have multiple ways to look at it, and multiple people will answer it in different ways. And so for me today, for the sake of this conversation, the discussion that we're going to have, I wanted to bring that up just to show and kind of like share an example of why a lot of the times when I have conversations with people that are in cults or in strict environments, that I just don't always accept one specific answer. I always put more value on the reason why they answer the way that they do and what kind of like evidence or reasoning they have for it. And so while we like basically nitpick and like dissect a lot of the things that my dad talked about, I just want you guys to keep that in mind and know that to me, it's extremely important to question everything, but also to have more than just an answer, but to have actual details worth it and to support your reasoning. Because I feel like, especially in our day and age now, it's more important to know why you believe what you believe than to just know, oh, I believe this, because we have a lot of resources. We have so many ways to learn new things. Sorry. Am I talking too fast? I have so many things on my mind. I just need to take a deep breath, just chill. And I naturally talk pretty fast, but I don't want to skip details or make this like confusing or anything. All right. So last week we talked a little bit about my dad because it was week 36 of doing these lives, these evening teas with Eskel, and I shared some information and basically pointed out quite a few of my dad's flaws or like issues that he has gone through in his life or difficulties that he's gone through in his life. And to me, I personally kind of just saw it as like, pointing out that he's human. Everyone has mistakes, things happen, and I do admit I don't have a good relationship at all with my dad. And so, yeah, it's very easy for me to see his flaws and to maybe focus on them a little bit more. But with my dad and really the order, I don't even know where to begin because there's a whole complicated aspect of the fact that like the order itself, basically my whole, interpretation of what the order was or is, the majority of it comes from my dad, because my dad was the one that enforced, he was the one that first of all taught me everything that the order was supposed to like believe in and what I was supposed to, how I was supposed to live as a good order member. And so his own interpretation on how those rules were or like should be enforced or be lived is kind of what I was being given in the cult, of how a cult is ran, how the order cult specifically is ran and what they believe in and how they, function and live their cult little lives, I guess. And one second, I just want to make sure. Yeah, I think everything's good. I hope this sound's not crazy, but I'm like not even looking at much feedback right now because I'm trying to keep everything focused. Someone donated. Oh, Denise, thank you so much. Thank you so much for the donation. And Christina, wow, Christina, this is the first time anyone has ever beaten Denise in a donation on my lives. So thank you so much. That was really cool. Denise, thanks again. Every single time, Denise is always donating on here. It's so nice. I love being able to count on you guys and just the excitement that comes from you guys supporting and helping my channel. It's awesome. I must have missed an episode. That's crazy. You talked with your dad. I know, right? It's been like, okay, so here's also the complicated thing, right? So we know there's difference between the written rules of the cult versus the actual implemented rules that they live. And so the obviously like written rule is they're not supposed to talk with me. They're not supposed to associate with me because not only am I just an outsider, not one of them, but I have chosen to leave them, which is why we always compare it to the son of perdition. It's kind of how they view me. Someone that was given the truth and rejected it is supposedly way worse than someone that just doesn't fully understand, doesn't have the truth, just a regular outsider, what they would call them. And so, yeah, in the written rule, they're not supposed to talk with me or associate with me. But of course, there's that bond of family and relationships and stuff that it gets complicated. And I do everything I can to try and still see them, try and still be around them. Not with my dad. I will admit, I give like no effort to seeing my dad because I don't want to. I feel like he was abusive to me. I feel like he basically made my childhood a living hell. And so, yeah, I'm not like super motivated to try and seek out a relationship with them. But of course, with my mom, like I still do. And with my siblings, I still care for them. And so I try to. And on the rare occasion, I get that opportunity. I get to spend time with them, do things with them, whatever. And a lot of the times it has to be kept secret, this and that. I don't know. I don't live there anymore, so I don't really know exactly how hush-hush they are. I assume they don't tell a bunch of people that they hang out with me or whatever. But sometimes I still get the rare opportunities to see them. And this one particular time, I just happened to also see my dad. And, well, every once in a while, I do run into my dad. It's a lot more rare because he's rarely home. He's got so many kids, so many places he's always at, that usually I don't even have to be like, oh, I got to make sure I plan to go to the house when he's not there, this and that. I just show up whenever I can. And most of the time he's not there. Like, it's just the odds of the statistics. It just works out most of the time. Every once in a while it doesn't, and I do run into him. And most of the time it's the same thing. But this time was a little bit, this time was crazy. Okay. I think I have to assume it was just the last video I did. My last Evening Tea with Eskel, episode 36, because it was talking about him and it shared a lot of information about him. But anyways, I walk into the house and literally he came running from whatever room he was in. He ran down the hall and came to me in the kitchen and he just started yelling at me and telling me to leave, get out of this house. You are not welcome here. Just all sorts of things. You could tell he was heated though. He was just so mad and it even got me by surprise. Like I'm used to seeing my dad mad, but like he was furious, you guys. This was wild. And the interesting thing is though, after him shouting all these things at me and just telling me to leave, I did notice myself. I kind of like leaned towards the door and I was like, crap, there's nothing I can do. He's like clearly not in the state of mind to try and reason with or talk with or anything. So I saw I could tell I was like leaning towards the door, just about to turn to leave. And for some reason, I just like paused and I stopped and I was like, what am I doing? What can I do? Like I came all the way here. I wanted to be able to like, try to do something with my family or spend time with my siblings, something. And so in my head, I was like, just don't leave. Do whatever you can to try and, make it work. Maybe try to like reason with him something, which was kind of scary, honestly, because he was angry. He was not in a good headspace to try and reason with or like have a decent conversation with. But the words that came out of my mouth were just simply, why do you feel that way? And it was like super quiet. Like I'm sure he was not expecting me to say anything. I think everyone was shocked and it was just super quiet. No one really said anything. We just stood there for a little while and he just started listing like certain things that I had. Well, he wouldn't say any of the specifics, but he basically was just saying like, oh, I said rude things about him. What's funny too is he first said, oh, you're saying horrible things about this family. You're like, ruining the family name and reputation. You're saying all these horrible things. And I literally looked at him and like, I was a little scared, but when he said that, I couldn't help but be like, no, I'm only saying rude things about you. I'm only sharing all the flaws and problems and issues with you, Dad, because I think that's very true. I don't talk about my siblings in a harsh manner. I don't say anything rude about the people that I feel like really have not wronged me, but I truly feel like my dad has. And so I admit it, I say some harsh things. I bring out the harsh, true reality, and a lot of them are bad things to say about him. And I don't know how, but I ended up saying that to his face. And I don't think it helped. I could tell he was still upset and angry. And he just went on some rant about how that's still rude. And like, I'm so bad at like noticing the positive. And I only find all the faults in him and all this stuff. And I really had to try to like de-escalate the conversation. And a little bit, I wanted to just, well, the best way I know how to de-escalate situations is to kind of change the subject. So I asked him just a question about, well, we know the core of what I want to do here. I want to be able to spend time with my siblings. I want to still be able to keep somewhat of a relationship. Is there any way that can happen? And like the conversation with my dad was probably at least an hour. It was long. It definitely got kind of annoying, but I kept on having to ask this question over and over because that was the core. Really, to me, it's as simple as I want to be able to keep a relationship. Still with my mom as well. I feel like my mom and I have a decent relationship. It's still very rocky for sure. Ups and downs, but that's life. But my siblings, like, it's so rare I get to see them. It's tough. Like, I still care for them. And like the rare times I see them, we do have a really good time and great conversations and a ton of things that we can both relate on because we've had the same upbringing and have very similar experiences. And I just love being able to bond with them like anybody would. And I want to make sure I don't miss anything, but what else happened? Ooh, another donation? No way. You guys are just, Jay Snow, thank you so much. Such a big donation. Oh my goodness. Heck yeah. Haven't been here for a while. Good to see you, Eskel. I hope you are well. Thank you so much. That's awesome. Oh, there's lots of comments. Okay, I'm going to try to get to all these comments, but let me try to finish this. I want to make sure I remember what else it was. Dang. Okay. Well, anyways, okay. So that was the core of the conversation. I was just trying to figure out some way to maybe, in my head, it was like, okay, what do I got to do to reason with him to make it so that, I don't know, if I have to, like, only see my siblings when he's around so he can, like, monitor it or something. I don't know how it would work. I know pretty much the rule is I just can't see them, but I also feel like he doesn't dare to admit that. No one wants to say that they are so heartless and just so don't give a crap or care at all that they will just never let them see their siblings and they're going to keep them from being able to have this relationship or just, hold that against them basically. And I feel like my dad's a pretty heartless person, but I also felt like he didn't want to just straight out say that, because that's a pretty rude, heartless thing to say. And so I kept on asking him, like, how can I see them? What can I do? And essentially, he basically was saying, well, yeah, of course you can see your siblings. All you got to do is live like an order member, do the same things that we do, have the same type of attributes and characteristics as us, because he kept on relating it to going to the same place as them, which, anyways, yeah. So he just wants me to be just like them, basically. And it's funny, too, because I was like, well, duh, I don't believe what you guys believe in. I'm not going to be an order member. And he would be like, technically, you don't have to be an order. You don't have to live polygamy to go to Celestial Kingdom, blah, blah, blah. You don't have to do You don't have to live every single principle, but you have to be willing or able or something. Anyways, he kept on trying to say, yeah, you can see your siblings just if you do everything I tell you to. If you full-heartedly like let me control every aspect of your life and you do everything that you need to do to be a good order member and stuff like that. Which was kind of funny. I thought it was kind of odd of him to know that I left. I clearly don't want to be in that environment. I don't even believe, what they believe in. Yet he just wants to use something to hold against me to be like, well, this is what you have to do to see your siblings. And so what I did, and you guys can let me know what you think of this, because I thought this was a good idea to kind of just, my whole goal was to help him to see kind of how unreasonable he was being, right? And so I simply asked him, well, what about the fact that the order terminology, you should only go to John's Marketplace. You should only go to places that the order has. But way more like, I don't know the exact statistic, but 75% or more, like a ton of order members go to Walmart, go to places. You can't function very well in the world that we live in with only going to the few tiny little places that your little cult runs and owns and whatever. And sure, they try to, and it's like their guideline, it's one of the rules that they have, and they tell you to do it all the time, but like basically no one does it. Maybe my dad. I doubt even my dad does it. But anyways, long story short, I try to share with them that there's lots of things that the order says that are unreasonable even for order members. Like not even the majority of order members believe in them and they don't live by them. Yet you still let them, have a relationship and still be considered an order member and like let them, be around their siblings and not disown them from the family and stuff like that. And I feel like that got him thinking a little bit, but he's threw some analogy in and kept on saying other things just basically about why, no, I can't see my sibling. And then let's see, I'm trying to remember what happened next. It went quite a bit all over the place. My dad shares so many analogies all the time. It just, it drives me crazy. And to me, like, I understand analogies are supposed to be used to make something more simple and better understandable. But I swear, my dad uses analogies to just confuse the crap out of whatever he's saying so that he can just have the answer be whatever he wants it to be. And it's just, I don't know. I think that's dumb. But anyways, so he finally did get to where he was like, okay, well, we'll figure out a way for you to have a relationship with your siblings. Let's sit down. Let's talk about it. Let's be civilized. Like, he was finally calmed down at this point. He was like, let's be civilized and all this stuff, even though he wasn't being very civilized in the beginning. But he says that he wants to. And so he says the first thing we have to hash out is, why are you saying rude things about me? And it's funny, this is his top number one priority, you guys. The biggest thing my dad cares about is his reputation, the way people view him. And so he just cannot accept, he hates it when anyone has anything bad to say about him. In fact, the way that he said it, I thought it was so funny, the way he said it, that I wrote, I tried to remember exactly word for word, but he said something along the lines of, why do you have to talk about the problems that I have and the things that are wrong with me? Why don't you just only talk about the good things and all the positive things that I do and everything that I do correctly? And he also said, why don't you talk about the times that I took the family to Disneyland or I took you fishing? And he was just talking about how I'm so ungrateful and I only talk about the bad things and none of the good, basically. And I sat there and just let him rant about this for quite a while. And I said, okay, if that's truly what your concern is and your question is, then for me, the reason why is because your mind is just mystified and can't comprehend or understand why I would leave the order, God's place, why I would not stay where you are and try to be just like you, why I would not let you make decisions for me, guide me to the person that I'm supposed to marry, why I wouldn't let my dad, this old, super wise person, determine what my job's going to be and choose my career for me and basically plan out my whole life. And to him, it's like, oh, I'm so old and wise. I should plan it all for you and it would be great. Why don't you want that? And I'm just like, are you kidding me, Dad? This is why I feel like I have to point out your flaws, because I don't trust you with anything. I don't think I can trust you with those decisions. I don't want you to choose my life for me. You, first of all, are not perfect, and you try to push down any mistakes you make and all your flaws and make it look as if you are perfect, but I can see past it. I lived with you. I know who you are. You are not a perfect person at all. You're far from it. And so me pointing out these flaws are just showing that you are human and helping you and everyone to realize that you make mistakes. Is that really such a bad thing, to be a human being and have to learn from your failures and your mistakes? We all do it. We all know it. That's reality. Yet you live in this cult fantasy world where you just have to be this godlike person and be in control of all of your wives and all of your kids and your whole environment that you set up around you, where you just won't accept that you can make mistakes, and you hate it when people remind you that you're a human. And to me, it's like, I feel like I have to show you why, because you just seem to be shocked that I don't want to be like you. And it's like, there's so much to it. I was like, even just for the heck of it, I went on and started putting down all of these things and reasons why. And it's like, there's a lot to it. But the bottom line essentially is the fact that you just have no credibility. there's no reason that I should really let you control my life or be able to trust you when I've seen a lot of the dark sides of you. And so, yeah, I don't like it. And so those are some of the things that I point out. And that's the reason why. It's because you don't seem to see it yourself. And you think that everyone should just allow you to have full control over everyone that you're, what's it called? Your prophets, I guess, your apostles. No, not even that. You guys don't call them that rarely, but the one above you, the law of one above another or whatever. You just feel like you should have full say and that you have inspiration over everything and should be able to control my life, when I just think otherwise. And I feel like I want to be able to make my own decision. And here's the thing. I think that I personally think that's very reasonable. And I think most people would see that as a very reasonable option for me to want to make my own decisions and maybe not fully trust you to make the decisions for me. And you, though, don't seem to think that's reasonable. You think that that's just crazy of me to want to. But I don't think that it is. I've seen you, and I've seen a lot of the decisions that you've made, and I want to make different decisions. And so I don't know why you don't let me, why you wouldn't want me to be able to be my own person. But, I mean, you grew up in it too. You've been in it your whole life. So it might be a little bit hard for you to fully comprehend it. But, yeah. Anyways, wow, that was long. That was a big rant. Does that make sense, though, you guys? I hope that makes sense. I think if I were to summarize it, long story short, he was furious and upset that I point out his flaws. I simply told him I point out his flaws because he's not perfect. Nobody is. And he doesn't seem to get that. And so, yeah, I point them out. And I think it's very reasonable for me to understand and see that he has no credibility for me. He has given me no reason to trust him or to want to be vulnerable around him or to, let him have a say over my life. And so I simply don't. Okay, sorry. Let me see if I can get through some of you guys'. Leah. I like Leah's comment. She says, I can't imagine how much strength that took, Eskel. I think you did the right thing, and I'm proud of you for speaking up and asking the difficult questions for the sake of yourself and for your siblings. Thanks, Leah. I'm glad you pointed that out because it was terrifying. Not because, I shouldn't be scared anymore. I really shouldn't. I'm, taller than my dad. I feel like, first of all, I don't think he would ever fight. I think he's also has fear, he's human as well. But when he was angry and super upset, it reminded me of as a kid when he would yell at me and be super mad at me and basically terrify me and scare me as a tiny little kid. And back then I really was defenseless. He could completely destroy me and I could do nothing about it. And so I feel like a lot of that fear from way back then kind of came back, and it was quite scary and I didn't like it at all. But yeah, I was really glad I was able to at least stay there, kind of stand my ground a little bit and talk with him. And I do feel like the longer the conversation went on, the more he realized how unreasonable he was. Well, I hope so. I hope he was seeing how unreasonable he was being and how a lot of what he wants is just kind of his own personal understanding or view of it. Because just with the way that he lives his life and his belief system, it's all basically the core of what he wants from everyone around him has to do with his religion, the way that he believes that it should be lived. Whereas even if you go from different people in the religion, I think there'll be different viewpoints and different ideas on it and whatnot. But he's just a very strict person himself. He wants to be in full control. And I even think he has a God complex. I know that he feels like he can't say that he's a godlike figure because that would be blasphemy and this and that. But he definitely expects you to report back to him and treat him and only point out his good traits and all this stuff as if he is a god. And so he kind of does have that interesting viewpoint of himself. But it's also, I think a big part of it is the fact that a lot of the people around him, he's in an environment where they all kind of have to be nice to him. Literally, he has raised all these children from birth to praise him and love him and only notice his good aspects or whatever, or at least only talk about the good things. and say that they like him. Whether they like him or not, they have to say that around him. Otherwise, he can destroy them. He can make their life a living hell. But he uses analogies because he can't give a straightforward, honest answer. It buys him time to BS. That could be a part of it, yeah. I definitely think, I don't know. He loves analogies. And maybe he uses them to buy time so he can still think about other stuff. Or maybe he's like, because I know the prophet Paul, he shares analogies all the time. So I wouldn't be surprised if my dad hears analogies that Paul says and tries to use them himself or something. Because I think it's a common thing throughout the order in general. And probably comes from the leaders that are using those or whatever. How many trips to Disneyland does it take to erase him? Freaking his sister. Ooh, flicker fade. That's a good point. Well, they all talk in riddles. Yeah, a lot of them. That's kind of why I wanted to share that whole river question. I know it might seem like it doesn't apply that much, but I feel like with anything in life, especially when you're trying to figure out what's true and what's not true, it's a lot more than just figuring out, okay, this is true or that's true or like this person says that's true, you know? There's so much more because depending on your viewpoint of it, depending on your background or your environment especially, then the answers will have so much more meaning if you actually have a reason for why you have that answer. So, and I don't know, growing up in a cult, I feel like I have to have like support or justifications or something behind my answers. Otherwise, I literally am just putting my arm putting my trust in the arm of flesh, which I don't want to do that. But okay, Jay Snow says, in my opinion, trying to have a normal sit down with a narcissistic person hardly never works. It's a whole different level. You're nothing like him, Eskel. Trust your gut and stand your ground. Yeah, and I agree with you 100%. But how do you help a narcissist? To help them realize that they are being narcissistic. It's like, I couldn't help but feel like 90% of the conversation was going in circles. Because we all knew the core of it. Like, I wanted to be able to have a relationship with them, and he doesn't want me to. And the funny thing is that it's way more than just like, he really is the block point between it all. Because if he would change his viewpoint or change his opinion or his idea, then it could work out just fine. Because there have been times, and he knows this too, there's been times where I have come to the house. And sure, he's never been like super welcoming to me, but he has bared through it and allowed it, and it was fine. Nothing went wrong. I didn't like coerce the kids or try and like persuade them or convince them to leave the order. I didn't try to, fight him or anything. And it's like, I don't know. From my viewpoint, everything was fine. But then this time, he was super upset and he just wouldn't allow it. And I don't know, to me, it's pretty clear that he's the only one standing in the way of it, at least for me. But I don't know. I mean, it is the order and the religion as a whole, but even the religion itself, even the majority of order members are not as strict and controlling as my dad is. And so it's true. Order members will always say, oh, well, one family doesn't represent the whole order and it's fine, whatever. Yeah, each individual is different. And with my dad, it is very different. He loves being in control. He even has this rule. I don't know like how he has like specifically described it to the kids, but I know that they are like supposed to report back to him in everything that they do, even the ones that are married with kids, the full-grown adults that have their own families doing their own thing. They're supposed to report any big thing to him and let him know like everything that's going on. Well, not even just let him know, they're supposed to ask permission for everything too, which is kind of crazy as a full-grown adult. But I think that it's that he loves being in control. He loves feeling like this godlike figure and being able to have a say in everything that happens in his family. And so it's kind of wild, but the worst part is he doesn't even have any control of his own life. Yeah, but that's probably why he likes controlling all the people around him so much, because technically the one above him is the one that controls him. in a sense, because the one above him is his brother, which honestly that would suck even worse. Like, it sucks having a parent over you, but can you imagine if your own brother was the one you had to get permission for everything that you do? That would suck too. But I don't know. It's just, that's one of the rules of the order. You always have someone above you you're supposed to get permission from, you're supposed to report back to, and they are essentially supposed to control all of the big things in your life. It's just, I don't know, it's weird, but ooh, those are so true. Ooh, Pamela says, Eskel, look into the traits of a true narcissist. That term is highly overused in today's society, quickly becoming the new buzzword. However, with what I know of your dad, he is absolutely one. Yeah, it's funny too, because here's one of the hard parts. I feel like with most reasonable human beings, they would look at a situation and just try to figure out what would be the most beneficial, or figure out what might need help, what they can do to improve or change it in a positive way. And with my dad, I'm trying to make sure I remember this correctly. I took down notes about how to me, I always forget that something might seem super obvious, but it's not obvious to him. So sometimes I'll say things to him, like, for example, I mentioned in the conversation that the order oftentimes is an environment that allows, or I don't know the proper word, but it kind of encourages in a way for there to be abusive situations or a lot of neglect. It's just an environment that's easier to happen in. And he always loves bringing up the fact that, well, he says, well, I was never abused or neglected as a kid. And I just about started laughing in this very serious conversation where I was like scared he was going to like chase me out of the house. Like, I seriously it was so hard not to laugh when he said that, because to me, it's just so obvious that he was, anyone that knows his environment, his childhood, his family knows that he was neglected, that he was, I wasn't there. I don't know for sure if his dad hit him or not, but it's like, anyone you ask would say, yes, his dad hit him as a child, because that's the way that they punish in the order. And he's even from the older generation. They were even a little bit more harsh back then. But anyways, long story short, I believe he was abused and neglected as a kid. But he says, no, not at all. He was not neglected. He was not abused whatsoever. And to me, that kind of blows my mind. And it's just really surprising. And I forget that it's like, he might really believe that. To me, something that is so obvious one way, he doesn't see it that way. So it's like, wow, what am I supposed to do at that point? Like, literally, if he is going to say that repeatedly hitting a kid over and over is not abuse, and he's just going to say that and believe it, it's like, I wanted to. I don't know if I brought this up, but I wanted so bad to be like, okay, so if you say hitting a kid over and over is not abuse, but then I say that hitting a kid over and over is abuse, and like we get people's opinions or ask people about that, you really think that I'm going to look like the crazy one? It's like, he's going to look so crazy. But I don't know if he is just saying that and trying to like pretend nothing happened, or if he might truly believe that that's not abuse. Maybe he really thinks he was not abused as a kid. And it's like, what do you do at that point if someone really feels that way? I don't know. What would you do? I have no idea. I've never dealt with that. That would be so interesting. Because not only at that point, it's not even us figuring out what's the reality, what really happened. It's the fact that he will not accept that is what it is, So it's just, I don't know. There's only so much you can do in a conversation, You can't really work things out if it's not going to make any sense. You can't help someone who isn't interested in change. Yeah. And my dad's an old guy now, like he's not looking to better his life or to change in any way. He wants so bad to be right at all costs. Like, I don't think he even considers the fact that he could be wrong. I think he's so focused on making sure that his decisions and his lifestyle is correct that he doesn't give any time to the possibility that it could be wrong. Because he's old. He's not going to want to change his ways. But then again, that's just a very one-minded way of looking at things. You're not going to be very open-minded and be able to see lots of different perspectives and viewpoints if you only want and only going to accept and listen to and think about the answer that you want it to be. Eskel, you can't help a narcissist. They have to want help. And one of the things that distinguishes narcissist personality disorder is a lack of acknowledgement of any wrongdoings. Really? I guess that would kind of make sense, huh? That's a part of the problem. They think everyone else is the problem, and as long as they have enablers, the game continues. Enablers, the game continues. Yeah. Yep. That's so true. So it's like, it's funny too, because I think of it this way. He literally has an entire group of people, the cult, right, that are the only ones that would accept his way of thinking and his rules and his guidelines. And he has to only be around them. And then from there, he has to literally raise the kids to basically like him and like that way of living so that they will be okay with it. And it's just, to me, it's crazy. It's wild. And it honestly kind of surprises me a little bit because he raised me from a child as to believing that same way. Basically, he wants all of his kids to be exactly like he is, and he raises them with those same principles, the same exact ways, and he tries to be like his dad too. So he gets it from his dad. He wants to be just like his dad and take those same traits and then teach them to his kids to be exactly like him. Oh, something just changed. Are we still going? I hope it's still working. Because I got a lot more to say. I'm just kidding. Anyways, yeah, he just set up an environment that's perfect for his beliefs and his lifestyle that he wants to live, no matter how unreasonable that it is. It's kind of funny because if someone is trying to create a society that is well functioning and has all these good traits and can be a positive environment, then it wouldn't be very hard to convince people to come or to create the environment and then have people come to it and build off of that. But for his, I can't think of anything else to call it, but other than his cult, he needs to raise his own people in it and teach them and convince them that that is correct from birth. Otherwise, I feel like any reasonable person would see the way that he lives his life and see his attributes and the type of person he is and be like, no thanks, it's okay, I don't want to. And so that's basically what I'm saying. I'm saying I don't want to be like my dad. And really, the only person I have to convince is my dad, because everyone else looks at it and there's like, okay, yeah, that totally makes sense. That's understandable. Yeah, it makes sense. They can see why, but except for my dad. My dad still is just like, what? Why? I don't get it, which is kind of funny. But, well, I laugh about these things. I joke about it when really it is a serious thing only because there are still children being affected by it. Honestly, my dad can do and be whatever he wants to be as long as he's not affecting other people. And it's true, he's not affecting me necessarily, other than the fact that he's keeping my possible relationships with my siblings away from me. And so, but other than that, if he just doesn't hurt other people or affect other people, he can believe whatever he wants and just be his whatever he wants to be. And the core of all of this basically is just, I still want to be able to see my siblings though, despite our different beliefs, and he just won't let it happen. That's really what the bottom line is. He will not accept it. He just can't seem to allow any type of, just for him to not have control. Anything that the people in his house or his children, his family do without his say and his approval and his control over it, he just can't have it. He can't accept it. It's just his own personal moral dilemma though. So what else was there? Man, there's still a lot. Okay, here's another one. So he also was talking about how the kids, his kids that are still in the order are trying so hard to be just like him and basically have his same attributes, live his same morals and his lifestyle. And so he kept on saying, along the lines of, well, the kids are just like me. Why do you want to have a relationship with them and not with me? And he even at one point was like, well, you know that I'm living the right way because my kids are so great. I have awesome kids and all this stuff. And I agreed with him 100%. I was like, yeah, your kids are great. I love your kids, but I don't like you one bit. So it's like, clearly there's a big difference between you and your kids. And to me, it's like, I don't know. It's very obvious though. I've seen him live his life, and I feel like he always credits his good lifestyle and him being a good person by the fact that he's got a bunch of kids, and his kids are pretty dang good kids. I will admit that, but he is not, and he doesn't ever point out like his attributes or the fact that he's doing something to actually be within himself a good person, a kind person, being actual attributes of someone that's supposed to be living a righteous life. He just thinks that because he has good kids, that's going to get him to heaven, or that makes him a good person. Whereas to me personally, I feel like it's who you are within that matters way more than just the fact that you might be able to make some people around you be good people. And so it's like, yeah, he does hold strong to the fact that his kids are pretty cool, but I don't feel like that changes him as a person very much. He's still pretty crazy. But, and then, what else did he say? I feel like I mostly talked about it. Man. Okay, yeah. So that was all of like the personal attributes I would want to say. Like we talked a ton about the fact that like I just don't like him as a person, you know? I don't want to be like him, and he couldn't comprehend that because he thinks like he is already perfect and great and all this stuff, but he's not. And also the funny thing is he claims that like spirituality, like religious stuff, is what matters the most. And the majority of our conversation wasn't spiritual at all. It was just about the fact that we have disagreements. We don't see eye to eye, that we don't have similar belief systems. We don't have the same type of like viewpoints, really. We're different people. And to me, that makes sense. To him, it just blows his mind, I guess. But then for the longest time, we never even got to the spiritual part. And then when we finally did, it was like, it blew my mind that he even thought for a little bit that he had any credibility in the spiritual or religious side of anything. And it's funny because he does, like, he reads the Bible and stuff, and he thinks that he receives like direct revelation from God. In fact, my dad oftentimes will speak for God, and he truly believes that he's like receiving this revelation or something. And to me, like, that is scary. Like, literally, when he says stuff like, I know that God wants you to do this, or like, God has inspired for these things to happen, it's like he doesn't realize, first of all, how wrong that makes him sound. But like, even if like the slightest chance that maybe that is something God sees as good or whatever, the fact that he is claiming that he is speaking for God, even from a religious aspect, that should be blasphemy, you know? Like, there's no way that he can tell me what God is trying to tell me, you know? And so when we did get to the spiritual parts, I tried to kind of show him, I tried to explain to him that, first of all, he doesn't ever even research other religions. So he, very off the bat, assumes that it has to be within his religion. And so all the research, everything that he's doing is how his religion is right and the best ways to make that be so, basically. And so I was talking to him about how I had visited many other churches and how there's so many opportunities for you to learn from other people, and how if you really were just born on this planet and God was expecting you to find his true church, and theoretically, let's just say, play theoretics here, if there really was only one religion, for some reason God only cared about one group of people, even if that was the case, you wouldn't find it by just assuming that you're in the right one. You would have to at least be open-minded enough to look into the other religions around you. Sit down and have a conversation with preachers of other faiths for you to be able to realize if they might be right or wrong, if yours is right, or if yours, what doctrine of yours is different from theirs to make it what God would want or whatever. But he has never done that. He doesn't even give that the consideration or the thought process, or, he doesn't consider that at all. And I was trying to explain to him that, like, I have literally been to more churches than him. I have, like, looked into it even more than he has. But he just thinks just because, I'm sure he's read more scriptures than me. He's an old dude. But he doesn't even consider the possibility of other options, of other religions, of God's one supposed church being out there truly being any other one but his. And it's like, even if you just look at it from a statistical perspective, like, that is just first of all, the wrong way to go about it. And it's extremely unlikely for that to be the case. And I'm not saying like, I mean, of course, I don't believe it's the right one. But like if someone were truly like considering and researching it, they should look at it and like research it, sit down with someone of that faith, talk to them about it. And you should do that with multiple faiths. If you even want to say that you have a good opinion or say on if it is a good one or not. But it's like he's not even willing to do that. Because like I said, he only wants to look into the possibilities of his being right. He wants nothing more than for his to be right. Whether it's right or wrong, all he cares about is finding out how or why it could possibly be right. Because that's all he wants. But yeah, that part of the conversation really didn't seem to go anywhere either, because he thinks he's just an expert in all things spiritual. Not because he's researched it or he's visited other churches or done anything, but because he is connected with God. Sorry. To me, it's funny. Anyways. Oh, and then I made a note that says, are you insane? Anyone who doesn't question you has got to be crazy. I feel like for someone to hear my dad's reasoning and be like, yes, I am not going to question that, would be kind of crazy. I really think so. Because if nothing else, you would at least want to fact check him. You would at least want to find out for yourself or see why he's so confident in the way that he is. But I remember when I was in the order, though, I remember being terrified of questioning him. Because if you got on my dad's bad side, he had this saying where he would be like, don't you dare bite the hand that feeds you. And basically saying like, you know, if you argue or fight back with him, the one that feeds you or has the puts the food on your plate, then he's not going to feed you and he won't take care of you anymore. And I feel like he truly lives that. And he scares a lot of his kids to not want to question him or to go against anything that he says. He makes it as an if he expects all of them just to trust him full-heartedly and question nothing. Which to me, that's already dangerous. That's giving somebody so much power when we already know he's human. He can make mistakes. So that's unreasonable to just know that he has made mistakes in the past, that he's fully capable of making mistakes, but never question anything and do everything that he tells you to do. That's just saying that you're going to do something that you know is going to be a mistake, or it can be a mistake. So, I don't know. He just asked for a lot of unreasonable things, but, let's see. Yeah, lots of notes about the fact that he claims to know the truth even though he's never looked for it. He's only tried to find every way or possibility that his is right. It has to be right to him. Because think about it, if it's not right, he is screwed, you guys. Not only he is screwed. Like, I think if he was a single person, he might be willing to be like, okay, maybe I screwed myself over, but like, it's just me. I'll accept my fate or whatever. But the fact that he has coerced dozens of people to believe what he believes, and it's like all these kids are like counting on him on everything, and that if he's wrong, he is literally like ruining the eternal perspective or life of all of these people. And it's like, I don't know, it's crazy. I don't know if he thinks about that, but I would hope he has. Because there's a lot of those kids and a lot of like his wives and the people around him that are trusting him. I don't know why they do, but they are. And yeah, he's the one that is coercing them or doing everything that he can to make them believe what he believes, live the lifestyle that he lives. Oh yeah. And then just to imagine what like the view of the afterlife might be. Can you guys imagine that? Like, think about that with me for just a minute. We're just taking a step into his mind, theoretically, right? Imagine if in the next life that he might be wrong, you know, and what would have to go through his head. Because first of all, like, he's so confident, so set that he is right, like to the point that he is willing to not only basically gamble with his life, but to gamble with other people's lives and claim to them that he knows without a shadow of a doubt, 100%, that this is right. Now, first of all, that's a lot of red flags right there, because I would 100% understand someone being like, I think this is good and that this is right and I'm going to do this. But it's like, you just find out for yourself. Like don't take my testimony. Don't take my word for it. Like, that's scary. That's like, no, you can't just take what I know. Like, I only know so much. But for him to be like, oh yeah, 100%. Like, I know you can just do what I tell you to because it's right. Like, he's literally just, I don't know how else to put it, but gambling with more than just his own life, gambling with other people's lives too, which is crazy, but that's what he's doing. What else? And he does speak for God all the time, even to the point that he has talked about how, I can't say this one for he. I've heard from people that he has described that some people are going to go to hell. And so he's essentially saying that he's made the judgment, oh, those people are going to go to hell. And so he's in another way speaking for God, just like how many times he'll be like, I know that God wants you to do this, or God, sometimes he'll even be like, God has told me that you need to do this, especially when it comes to marriages. He's always like, yeah, God inspired this marriage to happen, with the ones that happen with his kids and stuff. And so he speaks for God all the time, which is I feel like that's, first of all, blasphemy, but that's just a crazy thing to do. And he does it all the time, like it's no big deal. And to me, to all of that, all I say is good luck wherever you go in the afterlife. I am not naive enough of a person to be like, oh yeah, I know where you're going after this life, because I have no idea. But I do think that you're going to need all the help that you can get, and good luck with that. You definitely are confident in it, so wherever you end up, I think it's going to be a hell of a learning curve for you, but yeah. And then I made a note that says, to all of those who have crazy strict religious parents out there, just imagine that look on their face in the next life when they are wrong. Because, here's the thing. I like to believe that a lot of good doing Christian, or like maybe not even just Christian, I'll have to do more research on that, but I like to believe that a lot of churches out there are going to essentially be the right one. I don't think there's just only one that's right. I think there's going to be a ton of them. All the ones that do good and uplift, literally the Bible says that those who teach good and do good are from him. They are teaching principles from him, and they are his people. And so I think there's going to be a ton. But most like very strict religious people have that mindset that ours is the only one, and there are thousands of religions out there. So the chances of whatever your strict parents are, wherever they are, there's going to be a very high chance of them being wrong. So just imagine when that reality has to set in with them in the next life, and they realize that. And I wonder what they're going to say, But my dad, what was I trying to go with this? I wrote a note that says, my dad loves saying he was excited for the next life. Oh yeah, see, that's just how confident he is. I think it's just because he never lets himself even consider being wrong. So he's super set that he's going to go to the right place. And what's funny to me, though, is that he's so confident in something that doesn't even have like a high statistical chance of being right. He there's multiple right answers to a lot of questions, right? But he believes that they truly have the correct answer. Not just correct belief systems or ideas, but they really have the correct answers. So he's putting a ton of faith on something that's like extremely statistically small chance of being correct. And so that right there is a little bit scary. Dang it. I have like 3 more analogies that they had talked about, but I don't think it's even worth going over. Okay, I'm just going to read some of you guys' comments because I think I'm pretty much done. The big summary of this story was kind of like me answering my dad's question of why do I point out his flaws? And that's the biggest reason why. I feel like a lot of the times he won't accept the way that people view him, or the things that we've seen him do that to us justify why we don't give him our full 100% trust, but he just doesn't accept that a lot of the times. That's incredibly emotionally abusive of him to threaten to withhold love and care if you disobey him, especially as a young, vulnerable child growing up. Despicable. I know. I totally agree. And it's funny because when I first left, I'd be like, no, that's fine. If you go farther enough back in history, I'm sure people did that. There was the Depression where lots of people didn't have money. And I bet dads had to decide which one of their kids were going to live. That's kind of what I thought of it in my head. Like, that's reasonable. That happens all the time. But it's like, no, frick no. Like, the more you think about it, it's like, how heartless do you have to be to literally your threat to your kids is that you're not going to feed them? Not even the fact that like he already all the time is as an if he's not going to love us. He lets us know it's very clear cut that if we don't report back to him and do everything that he says, then he is not going to love us. He's not going to care for us. He's not going to spend time for us. He's not going to give us the time of day. And so it's like right there, that is psychological abuse, because he's not going to care for us. He is literally using that sense of wanting to belong and have that love as a motivator, or like a tool to get what he wants from us. And so to me, the more that I've come to realize what that truly means and how heartless a person would have to be to say that to a young kid that barely even understands the world, then you really would have to be quite heartless and not really care about the repercussions that might cause that kid to go through, or what kind of like terrors or trauma that would cause for them. And he says all the time, like, this is something he's very open about, is that he doesn't think that if something happened in history, like if you look back far enough in history and it was a very common thing, then to him that is like justifiable. Just like why I think a part of his reasoning for abuse, he doesn't think abuse is really abuse. You know, when a dad hits a kid, he doesn't think that's abuse, because back in the day, like, dads were way more abusive, and if you go further enough back, like, it was probably worse. And like, he's got all these justifications for himself, usually having to do with comparing it to some place in history or some time. And to me, I just say to that, if there's anything you want to find to justify, and the only reasoning for justifying it is finding a worse situation, then yeah, you're always going to find a worse situation. There's just the most horrible types of lifestyles, and like, we live in a world with 7 billion people. Like, if you want to find bad things out there, you will find it. In fact, you'll probably find anything that you look for. But I feel like just because you find something that's worse than what you're doing to someone else, it doesn't justify what you're doing. That's a horrible way for you to find a reason to make it okay. But to me anyway. My grandma always says, you can't make sense out of nonsense. Don't even waste your time. Life lessons from my grandma 101. Nice. I like that. Jay Snow's grandma has some good advice there. Nice. Okay, we are getting pretty far in here. Is there a lot of lightning in Utah? Don't ever stand too close to him, Eskel. Yikes. No, I think that's funny. We actually have evidence that we are the right church. Ooh, that's an order member. that's kind of funny. Let's see. Oh, is Philip? I think Philip's the one that normally comments on these videos, huh? He's a pretty well-known order member. I don't know if his name's really Philip, but his last name probably really is Kingston. That one's really common. Know better, do better. Just because it was worse doesn't mean that what you're doing, when you're doing it, doesn't mean it's not abuse. That's true, Melanie Brown. Yeah. True. Yeah, this is kind of what I expected. Like, here's the thing. I know that with a lot of you guys, that you guys were basically going to see the same viewpoint that I saw it as. Because I feel like it really is. My dad is the odd variable in all of this. Because even with other order members, I've had lots of conversation with order members. They're still currently in it, that still consider themselves, like hard, dedicated order members that have been way more understanding, that see from my viewpoint way more than my dad does. So my dad is not only, an order member, like living the lifestyle in a cult, but he has his own interpretation of it. He's a very strict, super like, I guess, whatever you would call it. He's just really into his religion. And so he has his own understanding of it. And he also doesn't like anyone else to tell him that it's different. I suppose that would probably be different if his brother, the one that's above him, tells him that something's different. But from anyone else, he doesn't even consider that they're right. Especially, man, if you're not an order member, I doubt he would even give you the time of day or even listen or consider it at all. But to me, that just shows how close-minded you are. Why would that give you any credibility that you obviously are good at learning or good at deciphering truth from non-truth or figuring things out, when you already take away all credibility from someone just because they're not, the same religion as you? I feel like that's just crazy, but But I don't know. I'm used to dealing with a lot of crazy stuff with my dad. But that is what it is. If you guys have any questions, I don't know if I'll talk about this topic. Well, no, I am going to talk about this topic some more because I'm trying to do a video where I was kind of analyzing this with my sister Amanda. Because my sister Amanda's got some really interesting viewpoints. And my dad also uses Amanda all the time as like a bad example. And Amanda knows this. I'm not like trying to throw her under the bus or anything. I've talked to her about this. But the funny thing is my dad oftentimes uses her as a bad example, points out all of her flaws and all of these things. And I think that's where I get it from. No, I'm just kidding. But he loves using her as the example of who not to be and stuff like that. And so for one of my videos, I want to do like basically analyze this whole conversation and talk about it with her and get her 2 cents on it and let her kind of like reply because, you know, I'm young. I'm still figuring out life. I don't know if the things I said with my dad were the best ways to kind of get through to him. All I was doing is trying to find ways to help him to kind of see how unreasonable that he was. And he did kind of like talk it through. And I hope, like, to me, with the way he kept talking in circles, it made a lot of sense that he was just kind of trying to find something or figure out some answer or something. And it was just a lot of talking nonsense. And I hope that he saw that, but who knows? And so I feel like any type of conversation with him, like, I want to say it's beneficial, but a lot of the times it's just talking in circles and doesn't really go anywhere. But anyways, bottom line and goal is that I want to be able to figure out how to still have a relationship with them. And the only thing that from what I can tell and what I've experienced in my life that is stopping me from that is my dad. And so my message to my siblings is really just the fact that I want to, and I've said this before, I want to have a relationship with you guys. I know that it's not the best right now. And to me personally, I know that like it's hard to even fully say that I know what love even is. I feel like I don't know. I don't have all the answers and I'm learning myself and I'm just trying to balance this crazy life that we live with still trying to have somewhat of a good relationship with you guys. And I know that our dad wants nothing more than to stop that and to cut off ties completely and to just disown me. But I'm going to do what I can and I hope I can be there for you. But I really think dad is getting in the way right now, even more so than before. And so I think it's going to make things very hard. And I'm sorry about that. I really do miss you guys. And if there's one thing I know about building good, meaningful relationships, the more time you spend with them, then the more love you build for them and the more like personal your relationship can be and the more enjoyable it can be. And that's one of the things that we just can't have right now. And it sucks. But yeah. And it's funny because I even want to say, oh, it's the order, because the order does teach it, but it's my dad that is like brutal about it. He's not just like, oh, like prepping the kids when I come over and like make sure you know this is the son of perdition, like yada yada. He's literally just like saying, no, there's no way around it. There's no contact, no way that you can have any connection with your siblings, with my siblings, my own blood. And it's like, it would be one thing if it was like, you know, my siblings didn't like me. Like, I don't know, maybe I beat them up as a kid or something, which I didn't. Well, we got in fights sometimes. But if like my own siblings were like, Eskel, sorry, I don't want to talk with you. I don't like you. Then I would be like, okay, yeah, that sucks. I mean, maybe I wasn't the nicest to them or maybe something happened. And I would be a lot more understanding to it. But the fact that when I went there and I went there to see my siblings, not to see my dad at all. And my dad literally ran between me and the rest, like getting anywhere else in the house. And he said that I can't see them, that I can't talk to them, I can't have any relationship with them, and that I need to leave. To me, it's very clear that he is the one stopping it. He is the one in the way. He is the problem, I guess. But I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. I love hearing people's ideas and ideas for how to like open or like, I don't know, readdress different conversations to maybe help my dad to see my understanding and to see where I'm coming at. Because I am trying to be reasonable. At least I feel like I am. But like I said, I'm always open to the fact that I could be wrong. I maybe was a little too harsh to my dad. And if there's something I said about my dad that I think was truly too harsh, I will apologize. And I'll like go over and talk about it and explain why I felt that way or anything. But it's like, really, like, I say this all the time. I really feel like my dad is the number one person that I talk bad about. And it's because I truly feel like I can, because I've seen the personal experiences. If I had one of my siblings that was like seeing my dad like hit one of the younger kids, a tiny little infant, over and over and over, and they wouldn't tell me about that, they wouldn't help me to understand that my dad is human and that he has flaws, and that he is like, he has this sorry, I feel like, I don't know, I feel like I've kind of explained this a lot, but I would be upset at my siblings if they would not tell me the reality of what it is. And so I feel like it's okay to say something if it's true. And so I do. And sometimes I remember a lot of the harsh things that my dad did more than some of the good things. And that happens. I'm human too. And so, yeah, I'm curious what you guys think. I'd love to get you guys' opinions. Message me on Instagram, on Patreon, wherever. Let me know what you guys think. Share in the comments. The comments that do take a lot longer to get to. But yeah, this was interesting. I thought it was going to get a little bit more intense, but I guess I'm done with being super intense because I already did that with my dad. But anyways, I hope you guys are excited for Halloween. I know this was a weird topic to have right before Halloween, but it's the biggest one on my mind right now. It's probably what my next videos are going to be about as well. And it's like, I don't know. I don't know what extent I'm going to have them. I have a ton of things that I want to say about them, but a part of me, there's a big part that's like, it's not worth my time. I feel like my dad, he knows how unreasonable that he's being, but he just will not accept anyone to like point it out to him or to try and do something different, I guess, or to make something different happen. But anyways. Jay Snow, I think you're fighting a losing battle with him until he gets help, which he won't. I think we need a plan B. Yeah. And here's the thing. I know. I am pretty well convinced that nothing's going to change. My dad is very set in his ways, so nothing's going to happen from this. So if nothing else, this is just me explaining my reasoning to all the other order members and to people that are in other cults or other similar situations for the reason why. Like, I don't feel like I'm an unreasonable person. I didn't leave because I wanted to go and sleep around. I didn't leave because I wanted to go and try drugs and alcohol. And I didn't leave for any I didn't leave with a motive to want to try and go do something that the order wouldn't let me do. I simply left because I felt like I was going to have a better life if I left. And I used a lot of what I felt like was reasonable justifications, and looking into it, just I left for a purpose and for more than just for just to want to do something, I guess. Whatever. Man, how do I explain that? Anyways, long story short, I feel like my reasoning for this is to be able to get it out there for the reason of letting people know where I come from and why I feel the way that I do. And I'm not the best at explaining it, I guess. So that's why this is also good practice for me. But there's definitely a lot of experiences that I've had and core reasonings for why I believe what I believe, why I live the lifestyle that I live. And so for my dad to just kind of unjustify all that and think that nothing matters and that I should just listen to him, to me, it just makes way more sense that that's pretty unreasonable. Whereas, I don't know, I like the lifestyle that I'm living. I'm going to keep living it. So, yeah. I don't know. I just wish I could still have relationships with my siblings. And see, there's also more to that, because technically, even within the way that the order functions and runs, there's a lot of ways that order members allow outsider siblings to still have connection or still come around the family or do stuff with them, And because, here's the funny thing, a lot of order members will view it like, oh, if this person leaves the order, then that means they're sick. They don't understand. They need help, And so they want to spend time with them and teach them and supposedly teach them the right way of living, right? Whereas my dad doesn't even his only reasoning is, oh, if they don't believe like I do, then cut them off completely. He doesn't even have like the same viewpoint as other order members that are like, oh, we want to help them, you know? He's not even from a teacher's perspective where it's like, oh, well, they probably didn't understand or they didn't know, yada yada. I don't know. It's just interesting. And it's crazy to me that it's one organization with one leader with all these rules and principles that are written rules that they have, but interpreted so differently by everyone throughout the group. And that happens all the time. That happens anywhere you go. So I'm not that surprised that it's being interpreted differently, but I'm just really shocked that my dad cannot see that other people interpret it differently and that there could be a way that we could still work things out and that we can still, at least associate with each other without having to get angry or like feel like I think he thinks I'm going to try to coerce him to leave or something. I don't know. And it's just funny. I think it's kind of wild that he can't even function or just get along with someone if they won't conform to his exact beliefs. So it's kind of crazy. But anyways, I feel like I talked about this for way too long. Are we over an hour, you guys? I think we're over an hour for sure. We're at like an hour and 15 minutes. This is long. My light battery died, but I still got my pumpkin head. Pamela says, Eskel, you do not have to bend to the will of that man anymore. You are not the problem. You are right in this. You cannot fix him. He won't admit he needs fixing. You can only protect yourself. That's another thing. I always wondered why my dad won't ever admit that he can be wrong, that he can make mistakes. And that's why I kind of relate it to this God complex a lot of the times, because he doesn't let himself really show much emotion. And he is kind of like that very stereotypical, oh, I need to be super manly and I need to always be right and all this and that. It's like, I don't know why he wants to be that way so much. Like, we're already these little kids at least when I was in the order, we're just these little kids that listen to his every word, that already look up to him. And like, it was so easy for him to teach us whatever he wanted to. I don't know why he felt like he had to portray this idea of him and like try to put on this show that he was nearly perfect, that he's like this super great ultimate being. Whereas he could have just been himself and still taught us whatever he wanted to, and we would have just been little kids and still listened to it. But for some reason, I think he wants really badly to at least pretend like he's nearly perfect or something. That's what I conclude to it, I guess. I don't know why else he wants to do that, but Aggie, just a suggestion. What's your suggestion, Aggie? Eskel, you're amazing, and I'm proud of everything you have been through. Aw, thank you, Jane. And thank you guys so much. I'm glad I'm able to have these therapy sessions. They not only help me get a lot of ideas and help from you guys, but it also helps me to talk it through. You'll even notice in this one, I don't get a lot of opportunities to bounce ideas off of people and to share these deep, meaningful conversations. That it's I get to do that with you guys, and it helps me a lot. And I'm sure I stumble and not the best at explaining it, but I feel like that's why these are so good for me. I feel like this is going to help me to not only more fully dissect the conversations and the weird things I run into with the cults, but also help me to find better ways to help those that are in them. Because to me, it doesn't seem like it's too far-fetched of an idea to essentially peacefully stop cults from doing bad things, basically. And I think there's a lot of things coming that are going to help with that. And yeah, I don't think that's too big of a suggestion to say that we could really stop a lot of abusive environments and a lot of just cults, I guess. More than just cults though, because it's the core problem with cults is the abusive power that people get. And so just to be able to help bring understanding to people and educate people to know that abuse is not a good thing and it's not allowed. There's so many ways to help stop it and to get like even, what's it called? Enforcement, I guess, to get involved in like the law to help stop something. And it's tough because a lot of the reasons the cults get away with things is because the people in it are either too afraid or like believe in that system and they allow it. And so, yeah, there's a lot to it for sure. Wow, I got through all my notes, you guys. You guys are really good listeners. I thought I had way too many notes to ever get through all of them, but I did. Wow. That's impresses even me. Oh, there was a few other analogies and then one other story I was going to share. But I'm going to save that for next week because that one can go on for a long time. And you guys, you guys have shared a lot of really good ideas. This was awesome. So thank you guys so much. I'm going to call it a night and get everything ready for Halloween tomorrow. And I hope you all have a good time as well. And I'll see you guys in the next one. But feel free to continue to comment, send me any messages. And yeah, we'll go from there. I wish I knew the best ways to like present all of this stuff and to find good ways to address it. But I'm a human. I'm still trying to figure it out. But between all of you guys, I talked with another group about this, but I think getting information from people is extremely important because I mean, I don't know you guys' ages, but like there's thousands of you guys that watch this. And to assume that most of you guys are probably 18 or older, that's like hundreds upon hundreds of years of life experience and things that you guys have learned and gone through that you guys can give advice to me on. And so sharing this stuff with you guys, hearing you guys' feedback, I feel like it's super valuable. And I really do take it in and like I love learning from you all. So I appreciate you guys being a part of it and just helping me in all the ways that you guys do, all the support that you guys show. And I'm sorry, I'm like, the one thing I do wish that I could do better is not always have to go back to all the abuse and like all the craziness of the cult and whatnot. Because I want to move on. I want to just focus on like ways to improve life, and I want to get past being in a cult, I'm not in a cult anymore. I'm done with that. I'm focused more on my dreams and my goals and seeking out success. Whereas I'm still so involved with a lot of people that are in a cult and with a cult mindset that I always end up going back and being like, how do I find better ways to answer this or to help them understand this, where it's like, I should just move on, but I can't. Well, I can, but I want to, but I don't want to. That's a tough thing. I want to for my own self-development and growth, but I also want to be able to help because my siblings are still there and because all the people that I can relate to. The reason why I care so much about my sibling situation is because I was there. I lived it. I know exactly how heartbreaking it can be when your father uses those manipulative tactics on you and it can just destroy you. And sometimes you feel like you have no one to talk to or no place to go. And that's heartbreaking. That's the worst things that I've ever experienced in my entire life. In and out of the cult. That's the worst. Outside of the cult, I've never even really experienced that. And I still remember it to this day, even though it's been years and I moved on with my life and I feel like I'm very happy where I'm at now. I still remember where that was at. So awesome. All right. I hope you guys have a good one and I'll see you guys in the next one. Okay. Have a good one. Bye.